Judy, careful, don't you can recruit you.
I'd like to thank Rick Golzon. Rick, I hear you did a fantastic job of filling in for Brad today as greeter, so thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
I see Todd Aitchison back there. Oh, Canada, please.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
We should all, who's involved with the kickoff this week, or the groundbreaking of the new hospice in Water. And the Queen. All right. Please bow your heads. Blessed are you, Lord God of creation. You feed the whole world with your goodness, your grace, your kindness, and your mercy. You nourish and sustain us and do good for all. Bless this food we're about to use. Bless this food we're about to use, food to our good use, and us, your Rotarian servants. Amen. Any Rotarians that brought a guest, please introduce them. Kat?
Kim Cook is no stranger to most of you, but she's my sister, and she's from Guyana, South America. We've supported several projects down there in the past, so.
Perfect. Anyone else?
I can introduce these. I didn't bring these folks; they brought themselves. But we have Uji is a lawyer in Nigeria, and she's a Rotarian that's visiting.
Oh,
her daughter over here is Ade, and she is a student at Laurier in Global Studies, and the youngest one here is Ore. And she's not at Laureate yet.
But we are recruiting her. And Mr. Sergeant at Arms.
Oh wait, our speaker will be more suitably introduced.
Rotarians, how do we greet our guests? And the head table, and anybody that has the head table can go, and then anybody that has a guest with them, please up to the buffet.
Yeah, go ahead.
They didn't have it set.
Hey,
Mac, how are you?
Hey, nice to see you.
Good. So I have a favor to ask you.
Okay.
I have to, absolutely brilliant. I want to add one of my partners to my manager account for my company.
Okay.
And you have to meet them to verify their ID. So the problem is my partner's in Hamilton. So next time I can drag him out here.
Yeah, you let me know when he's coming to see you, and I'll make sure that I have some time to verify documents and activities. Not a problem. How's the new business going?
It's going well. It's going well. I try and keep about 50 open files in my inventory going forward, and it seems to be sustainable and speaking a lot. And you know, there's a lot of appetite for the information. So for sure, it's going well.
Great. Very good. Happy to help you.
Hold on.
Yeah, he said it's going to be too dusty, so I'll talk to Mark about dinner. That's a great idea. Alright, okay, that'd be great. So, why don't I just check with him that we left the daylight? I think I should.
That eggplant.
Does everything. So,
Never gonna get married.
I've got a spreadsheet this morning and minutes in. So, why don't I do this? Are you okay if I look at that and look at this? Like, when I do this one. So you would bring it upside down. So sure, if it was like a third party supplier or so he doesn't end up with people. So instead of doing
Part of it is loans. Already had a 1 year ahead.
Sorry, Brandon, I was trying to read my stuff. Where are they going? Before I do. Whatever happened with like that roof over the it was like
It's not charged. Yeah. 75% is for, no, 94%. And then 75% was for financial gain.
I was gonna give Karen Spencer
The lion's share of the
2 minutes on the
burden of parenting is that's his
They provide then all the research and all the quality stuff.
I'm gonna give you a better one in the morning.
So at first I was thinking this and I thought this is a great.
Same thing.
But then when I thought about the winter, oh my God, this is really an extension and Rotary is supposed to support those kind of
Just guys.
So
Yeah, my card.
What's his name?
and I'll just lay out what I was thinking and ask her how many black I thought they did. I thought they did.
That's the way the fish goes in the tank. Because it's together.
You'll never actually have to get
Previous attorney. Probably like, oh, we don't need that. Really?
I got one agency. There's some sort of I'm part of the women's team, where the youngest person is.
Well, hopefully the other group will take care of understanding.
And all kinds of points of corruption. The whole thing, whether it's the fisherman himself,
One, it was our first breast cancer result ever. It was our first international. So we do what's called and during the first couple of races, it was breast cancer. It's the first time we ever did a big break. And this was a doctor.
Temporary railing.
Basically said, what's the right move rather than carry the keep these ones? I do that. So I developed the first ever drug.
And that's what a lot of the chefs here want. Putting them on high-end.
Equals every. So that was one of the famous that
I almost always want to get local fish, like put it in a fillet form. You get like yellow perch. Well, our yellow perch. We mean. And we're going there when I was younger.
It's not catching it much.
Now they're invited to
Went to Peely Island. The one thing that was good was that you had all your
Did you hear the story of googly eyes this week?
So
We had a hotel in Peely Island, and a hotel in Florida.
Marketing dog.
How do you like
So it closes around October on Peely Island, and he goes over there.
And,
No, I haven't heard anybody who's like,
Well, he calls it, yeah, that's Peely Island, Canadian.
less pressure.
Somebody caught them.
What a boring place. Oh, yeah. The only exciting thing that happened on Peely Island was my wife booked us a ferry home. Some young guys got arrested. Right at the docks, open them flying in off the bridge. Drunk and disorderly. I was kind of jealous though, because I knew they were going to get back to the mainland like an hour before I did.
The cups are, you know, under for a little while.
Temporary.
A lot of the strategy. But that whole idea of our book was
Where David is, one of those.
So there's a few YouTube videos that do that, and they've got some of the really is going back to our
What's in the silver tin?
Yes, it's harder to compare. Really well done.
Oh,
yeah, I went over Jeff. Got to get back.
That's not here.
The owners of that last one first. So how long have you been at work?
Always on.
Okay, let's see it. What is going on?
Just a picture of my daughter's boyfriend's dog. I was aroused. Things that were said. I posted it on Instagram. Everybody offended me.
Well, I'm not you can see how he got it. I thought
Bring it into the house. Baby looks like you were never using that. That was leaving the house. Out the door.
no, it's like the conversation. It's almost like you're leaving.
You'll never know.
My son is there with her account, but now he works with me as a full-time. Tax returns, as long as you can find some days,
One more credit for what?
Finishes in 3. He's in Ryerson film.
Right away. What was her name?
No, yeah, that's
Should be a nice one.
it won't be there.
And that's 20% because there's so many things. Bunch of them live in the hotel. It's still a hotel, but on the international
Right.
a lot of them are usually local
Been there, done that, got a t-shirt.
Had a good time? We were down there last spring, when I spent money with
Like 5 years ago. But it gets
You're single?
single. I was always with that. First 2 years I was there on my last I really that's so hard. Like, when it takes a half an hour to go get a coffee, it costs you $25.
You can't park anywhere.
No, that's what I mean. Takes you 20, you got an hour to get to the downtown here, and then another 10 minutes to find a spot. $10 for parking. $5 for
Completely schizophrenic. Like a real, like, hospital. I'll go get paid like $200 an hour. So, the comment that we're saying, the parking part of the rent, but there was some other parking out there, $20 a night. So when I last year event on, it was $40. They cover up the
While you're finishing up your dessert, I'll go through and do a little bit of club business here. Everybody, I sent out an email for people to register for the Steve Bacon. Somehow something got messed up there, and it says that that it starts at 1:45. It should be 6:45. So please go and sign up for the Steve Bacon so I can get a count. At 6:45 it starts until 9 a.m.
What's the date?
November the 2nd. That will take the place of a regular club meeting. So that's November the 2nd is on a Friday at 6:45 in the morning. I see that Sound Crown and Anchor was signing up today. I hope everybody got their couple of shifts in there. We'll be promoting that as well. That's one of our good fundraisers we have. The other fantastic fundraiser is that John Vickery this morning told me that the Oktoberfest luncheon tickets are now available. So you can get them from him. He doesn't have them here today with him, but please contact John or myself or Allison or Laura Power. And you can get your tickets. Those tickets can actually be added to your bill here, so if that's what you'd like. Jack here today? No? Okay, we'll put a plug in for Jack about his turkey shoot at the Waterloo Rod and Gun. He actually says we don't really shoot turkeys, but so I can go. But he says there are other things he'll do, including a steak dinner, and there's other games that we'll play. There will be some skeet shooting, but I understand there's only 5 shots this time instead of the 25 shots, so people don't get their arm blown off.
Jerome, I also checked with Jack, and kids are able to attend, they just can't shoot.
There you go. We're not going to arm the young ones. I received an email last night, and I thought perhaps I'd read it to you here. The email was from our president, Barry Rassin, and he says, "My dear friends and fellow Rotarian leaders, this year on the 24th of October, Rotary again marks World Polio Day. I am writing to ask you to join me on that day to raise global awareness of the urgent need to end polio now. I've been a Rotarian since long before the Rotary committed to eradicate polio. When I was inducted as a member in April of 1980, the idea of taking on polio eradication as a corporate project had not yet been seriously raised. Polio still ravaged the lives of 350,000 people, nearly all of them children, every year. Today the world is a much different place, thanks to the vision of Rotary's leaders then, and the commitment of generations of Rotarians who have followed. We now have fewer cases of polio than at any time. As of I writing this message, only 14 children have been paralyzed by the wild polio virus in all of 2018. Only 3 countries are still polio epidemic wild, and the virus circulates in only 1 remaining reservoir on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. The success of this work has come through the results of dedication and concerns and many sustained efforts by Rotary and its partners in the Global Polio Eradication Initiative. Rotary's involvement has been wide-ranged. We have raised over $1.9 billion to date and contributed countless volunteer hours and staffing hours to the particular work of eradication, immunization, fundraising, and advocacy. Our success has been tremendous, and we are confident of our work will soon be complete. Yet the challenges remain, and the need to continue funding is acute. Until eradication is certified at least 3 years from the last polio virus is found anywhere in the world, every child must be immunized at the continuing costs of hundreds of millions of dollars per year. If any of the work is slowed or stopped, or if any of the momentum lost, we risk losing everything we have worked for so many years. That's why I'm asking every Rotary Club to find a way on October 24th to raise awareness to Rotary's work on eradicating polio. At endpolio.org, you can find some great resources to help you plan an event, or you can promote, or can help also promote an event, or find a nearby event and join in others around the world for polio. Join our find nearby events and join our World Polio Day live stream from the College of Physicians in Philadelphia at 18:30 U.S. time, Eastern Time. I look forward to coming together with you all on World Polio Day, when we can all be part of the inspiration to end polio now. Yours in Rotary, Barry Rodeo. So if you take a little time, maybe perhaps as a club, we can go to the website endpolio.org and take a look at some of the initiatives that perhaps we can do, and something that we might do as a club, or if we get some ideas come back, maybe we can take it to the cluster and see if we can't do something as a cluster together to raise awareness to end polio now.
That is a Wednesday.
That is a Wednesday? Yeah. Okay. Let me see. Members' birthdays. We don't have any birthdays this week. But Louise Pupolo celebrates a birthday tomorrow. Paul's not here. Anniversaries. Rick and Janice Bolzon, 35 years on September 3rd. Congratulations.
I did remember.
That's why he's got a job now.
Yeah. And I know what Simon's doing with Ruth tomorrow. 37 years. And Tom and Nancy Jerry on September 8th, 62 years. Let me see here. Anniversaries. Karen Spencer, 1 year, September 1st.
Pretty close.
And tomorrow, John Vickery. How many years, John?
Oh, I don't know. Somebody was just asking me that. I think it's 17 now.
Add one more.
Oh, okay, 18.
Right.
I can do math.
John's 18-year anniversary is tomorrow with our club. Just a reminder, I don't know if everybody remembers, but bingo I've got on my list, Karen Boyson tomorrow night, Tim Bradich, and Brandon. Okay, 50-50 draw. Get out your lucky tickets. The last 4 numbers. You coming up with the winner already?
I've got the winner already.
Yeah, okay. All right. And the last 4 numbers for 50-50. 4465. The pot is $113.50.
Go out.
Sorry about that.
Once every 4 years, I get to do that.
4463.
We're in the wrong direction.
Sounds awfully close.
Might be you.
Can't be. It is.
It is.
Happy anniversary. 4455.
By what?
Always a bright.
Yeah.
I would have loved that.
You like the black one? And the pot brewers.
Next week there'll be more money in it. What we do is you get a chance to draw.
Now, being we have a visiting Rotary from another club, we would love to do a banner exchange with you.
Yeah.
Take that up and make up.
I will.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any business they would like to add? Yes, John.
If we have 2 minutes, I really enjoy hearing about your Rotary Club, what it's like, how big, when it meets, projects.
First of all, I'd like to say hello to the women in Rotary. Very passionate about it. Very happy that we're in this organization and we are making it move forward as women. I'm very passionate for Rotary, and I joined Rotary 5 years ago. I'm currently the president of my club. And the second female president after 20 years. So, it's a lot of work for me because I've always been in the area of competition. You know how it is. I'm from the legal background. And you have to struggle back home in Nigeria, you know, to cut your onions as a female lawyer. My bias is family law. For the past 10 years, I'm a lawyer for 25 years. But the last 10 years, I have focused on family law, and it gives me some kind of passion. In my club, my club of 47 members, we have 14 female members. This year, like my president said, I received the mail from the RI president as well. And I'm looking forward to October because it's polio month. And you know, Nigeria, we're going to get out of polio very soon. There's been no case of polio throughout last year. We're praying we're not going to have any other case this year as well. So we can have the all clear and have our name out of PAN. Then I intend, what I want to do this year, or as a club, we want to focus on raising money for polio. We're looking at areas, we're going to do a walk around a very popular street on that 24th of October. That's what we're looking forward to. And we're going to focus more on education this year. We have the dictionary project we're working on. We have the 4-way test debate competition we're also working on. We also have the free medical week as a club that we go to the rural area and give them health support there as well. This year, I think we're going to work more with other clubs because we have ourselves in zones. So the bigger, the stronger. So we're going to come together as zones. The zones make up like 3 clubs or 4 clubs make up a zone. So come together and let people know about Rotary. And I very much know that Rotary this year is focusing on public image. And most of the time we do projects, we do not showcase our projects. So most people don't even know what Rotary is all about. So this year we said as a zone, we're going to go out and carry Rotary to the world. That's going to be our project, one of the projects this year. It's very wonderful and I'm happy to fellowship with you today. I've been pushing it off every time I go on the club find on my Rotary. And And I'm like, where am I going to go? And I say 7 a.m. I said, no. I will be going back tomorrow. And my husband's very passionate about Rotary. He eats Rotary, he thinks Rotary, he talks Rotary. I'm the Rotary president of my club, but every day he's talking. And at the meeting I said, can you just, I'm president. But it's been wonderful being with him. We've been together for 21 years now. And I told myself today, if I go back home and tell him I didn't attend any fellowship, so I'm happy. I'm going to go back home. I said, a fellowship with the Rotary Club of Kitchener, Westmount, and I'm very happy to be with you guys.
Very good.
And I hope next time I come, I would like to fellowship.
Oh, absolutely.
It would be nice to have you come over as well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I have the pleasure of introducing today's speaker, and it's Jessa Braun. And Jessa is a 21-year-old student from Kitchener who loves soccer and spends way too much time reading Harry Potter. She is a Bachelor of Arts student going into her 4th year at Laurier in Brantford, where she competes in varsity cross-country running and soccer. And this past year, Jessa had the privilege of representing Laurier at the National College Cross Country Championship in Quebec. But even off the field, she doesn't really catch a break from sports, as Jessa dedicates a lot of time to the organization Shescores, and she's here to speak to us about that today. Jessa is also the sports editor of Laurier's Brantford's newspaper. She has an interest in journalism, and that paper's called The Sputnik, so it'll be interesting to see where Jessa goes with her interest in journalism. She works as a lifeguard at both Laurier campuses in Brantford and Waterloo, so welcome, Jessa.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm very excited and honored to be here. I'm just going to start by talking about 2 national level soccer teams from North America. So I'm going to refer to them right now as Team A and Team B. So Team A has won back-to-back Olympic medals in 2012 and 2016, and they're also the reigning World Cup champions, and they have been medaling in the World Cup since their World Cup was founded in 1991. Team B, on the other hand, didn't even qualify for 2012 and 2016 Olympics, and the best they ever did in the World Cup was placing 3rd in 1930. So Team A, you'd think, would be treated pretty well, but they, in their league play during the year, they play in a professional soccer league in North America, and their median salary is $37,000. Each team has a cap of about $250,000, and their games are never aired on TV and never covered by the media, and they get about 4,000 in attendance to each of their games. Team B, on the other hand, who hasn't qualified for the last 2 Olympics or the World Cup, has a median salary for the regular league play is about $3 million is the cap, and their median is about $300,000. And their attendance averages out to about 20,000 per game. So Team A, the difference between Team A and Team B is that Team A is a team of all women, and Team B is a team of all men. And Team A is the national women's soccer team of the United States, and Team B is the national men's soccer team. So women's sports deals with a lot of issues every day. I'm going to be talking about professional sports today, even though it extends to leagues beyond that, like elite leagues and that kind of thing. So there's more than 7 issues that women face in sports, but I'll be talking about 7 big ones for today. So number 1 is one of the biggest ones, which is the lack of media exposure. So according to a study by the Tucker Center for Research on Girls and Women in Sport. Sports media, women's sports get 4% of all sports media coverage, even though 40% of athletes are female. So the lack of media exposure is kind of the mama of 4 other issues of the 7 that women face in sports. So I'll go through each one individually. Objectification. So women are usually, they're not always given credit for the talent that they've worked hard towards and what they're able to do in their sport. It's usually about their body image, and it's very common to find on magazine issues, if it's a female athlete, that they're more sexualized on the front cover. So here we have Tiger Woods. He's got the action shot, all that talent that he has. And over here is Lexi Thompson, and it's all about her body. And it doesn't really say in any way that Lexi was the youngest player to ever qualify for the US Open Women's Tournament. And here we have Roger Federer in his action shot, and then Anna Kournikova, who is in a little more of a sexualized pose and with a pillow in her bed. And it doesn't say that she's an elite tennis player. And one more, here's Lindsey Vonn and Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt in his jersey, fastest man in the world, looking intense. And then Lindsey Vonn, great American skier, but it's giving her credit for her body. You can't see the full caption in the corner, but it says, US skier Vonn looking like a winner already. So another issue is sexism that women face. A couple years ago, Andy Benoit openly tweeted, he's a journalist, and he publicly tweeted back at someone who was accusing him of arguing that women's soccer wasn't worth watching, and he replied with saying just women's sports in general are not worth watching. And unfortunately, this is a mindset that a lot of people have. They think that since women they aren't as strong or as fast, they're just not worth watching. But that's not true. Women just have a different style of play, and I think we need to appreciate the style of play that they have and not compare that to what men can do. Going back, I have another example. So another example that happened this past week where women faced sexism in sport was Elise Kane, who's a tennis player, and she was at the French Open. It was in the news that she got accused by tournament officials that she took her shirt off and changed it on the court because she realized it was on backwards. And she had a sports bra on, she wasn't showing off anything, but they said she wasn't allowed to do that. Meanwhile, men are allowed to take their shirts off and change them all the time in the middle of the court. So that's just an example of the sexism that women are faced with. Issue number 4, this one hits home for a lot of people. Because a lot of people have a niece, a daughter, a granddaughter, women they know who used to be in sports. And this one's impactful because young girls, because there's a lack of media exposure for women in sport, young girls don't have that exposure to female athlete role models. Being an athlete myself, I have a lot of experience with this growing up. It was really hard it's hard to stay motivated as a young female athlete when your only role models are like Kim Kardashian and those kinds of people that you see in the media. But because you're not seeing your favorite women's soccer team play on TV all the time. Meanwhile, you're going to school and all the guys are playing mini six at recess, pretending to be Sidney Crosby and all the sick NHL players they saw on TV the night before. And this lack of role models has an impact on the fact that girls drop out of sports at 6 times the rate boys do, according to an organization called 5thMeeting. And it's also, having those role models isn't just important for young girls, it's also important for even young boys who are growing up with sports, because it shows them that women can be professional athletes as well. When I was in grade 8, at recess, I was sitting around with me and my friends were sitting around with the boys in my grade, and they were going through all the girls that they would date, and then my name came up and they're like, oh, I would never date Jessa because she can do more push-ups and she can beat me in a race. And I felt kind of bad about that. And then later I realized I shouldn't feel bad about the fact that I'm athletic and I can do push-ups. I shouldn't feel bad about that at all. It should be a norm that girls are strong. So this is a second huge issue in addition to the lack of media exposure. There are no fans. So this is kind of the other parent of the other 3 issues that women face in sports. So there's a gender wage gap. There's, like I said before, the women don't really make as much money as men do. I'll talk about basketball now. In the NBA, I have the stats here. In the NBA, the highest salary, actually the lowest salary, is about $580,000. That's the lowest salary for players in the NBA, National Basketball Association. In the women's league, the highest salary, the WNBA, the highest salary they can make is $110,000. So the best players in the WNBA who are playing every game and being the stars of every game are making over $400,000 less than the bench warmers in the men's league. And there's a bit of something wrong with that. And it's also hard for women to deal with this when they're playing for big cities, they're playing for Seattle, they're playing for Chicago, and it's hard for them to afford their living expenses when they're making a really low salary, because some players in the soccer leagues and that kind of thing, they're making $15,000. And there's also that lack of job security. So players on contract for national teams are making a little bit more because they've got that contract with the national team as well. But with the lack of revenue for teams in the leagues, they don't know, they could fold with little notice. There was a team in the women's soccer league who folded last year with barely any notice, and the teams had to decide if their players were going to try and get drafted to other teams in the league, or if they had to start looking for other jobs. The security is just not there. So, in response to these issues, in December, I created a little nonprofit organization called Shescores. So, Shescores does a lot of things. We write articles about what's going on in women's sports and any recent events that happen. So I have 8 very amazing dedicated volunteers who help out with those articles. And they write about the professional women's sports leagues and other elite leagues, the Olympics, that kind of thing. And I also have a volunteer who does weekly YouTube videos and gives little weekly updates about the recent events that have been happening in women's sports. We also have been trying to move towards running some public events. So in the winter, we organized a bus trip to Toronto Fury's game, hence the shirt. Toronto Fury's is the professional women's hockey team in Toronto. So that was really great because it got people to actually go and see what the women can do, because you can't always find it on TV, and it really opens their eyes. And then, yeah, we also post on social media and give updates about what's going on in sports in that way. So how is Shescores addressing the issues that I talked about before? So if we recall the first issue, lack of media exposure, we're trying to create that media exposure. We're producing those articles and that video content and getting the names of the athletes out there and getting people familiar with them. We're creating that spotlight for female athletes. And then how can you and the public address the issues female athletes face? So if you recall issue number 5, that there are no fans, people can take the initiative to be the fans and go out of their way to give women's sports that attention. So for example, read articles that sometimes the big sports news corporations, they'll release articles every now and then about women's sports, not very often, but when they do, read them. And Shescores also produces articles, so you can read those as well and just get familiar with the names of the female athletes. Check out team and league websites. So this is really important because it directs traffic to, like for example, the National Women's Hockey League. If you go on their website, every now and then you're creating that popularity and that traffic, and they see those numbers, and then it's easier for them to get sponsorships and revenue from big organizations and companies that want to support their franchise. And buy merchandise. So there's shirts like this at the games and online, and hats and a bunch of stuff that you can buy. And not only does that give the franchise more revenue, but it also it advertises the team and the league. So people that are, when you're walking around the street, people will be like, oh, I've never heard of that team. And then you can tell them, well, it's a professional women's hockey league in Toronto. Go to the games. It's really easy. They're really cheap, $15 to go to Toronto Fury's game. Markham Thunder also plays just an hour away. And the games are really fun. Parking, you don't have to pay for parking or anything. It's awesome. Unfortunately, the only professional teams that are around this area are Toronto and Markham and the Canadian Women's Hockey League, but there's also university games to go to and semi-pro leagues. Those are also worth checking out for sure. And you can always choose a team to be your team. I find that people are more emotionally attached to sports leagues when they have a team that they're following and they're like cheering on that team and they want to see that team do well that year. So do research on teams in the leagues and decide which one you're gonna follow. And then follow the league and team social media accounts. Again, that produces that popularity and it shows the sponsors and people, big organizations like that, that there's popularity in the women's leagues and that those corporations can invest in that franchise. Give feedback to major broadcasting companies and networks. So even if it's as simple as putting out a tweet at ESPN or even writing an email, like once that feedback builds up, they'll start listening to it and they'll be like, wow, there's a demand for this kind of thing. You can also follow Shescores' social media platforms. So I'll put them up here. You can take that opportunity to follow them right now if you want. But what we do basically is we are always posting the articles that we produce and any updates from the league websites and what's going on in women's sports. On Instagram, it's harder because it's not as easy to just post a little update, like you have to post a photo. But we're focusing on Instagram the most because our audience, the younger generations tend to move towards Instagram more. So we put a lot of focus on that. We've moved since December. We've accumulated about 1,200 followers on there. Facebook is also a big one. We're trying to build that up. It's really hard to get followers on that because it's not as easy as Instagram where you can just follow a bunch of people and they'll follow you back. You have to hope that people are sharing your stuff and then that's how outsiders see the information. And then there's also Twitter where it's easy to post simple updates. So where is Shescores headed? We're always looking into the future and how to build and reach more people. So right now we're looking to build a new website because we currently have online shopping where we sell empowering clothing with phrases on them about women's sports and women in general and empowering them. So we're looking to build a website to create more features with that, and also our blogging and the efficiency of posting news articles and videos. We're okay for funding right now. We're always looking for more funding, but we ran a fundraiser in July, which was really successful. And we're also looking to gain more Facebook followers because that's always kind of tricky. And we're also trying to think of strategies to reach out to big broadcasting networks and try to encourage them to pay more attention to women's sports. So the changes that I talked about, it's not going to happen overnight, and as we at Shescores realize that, but once we try to just spread the word, and once everyone starts kind of making an effort to share their attention between men and women's sports, maybe a change will start to happen, and it comes from everyone who's a sports fan. So yes, thank you.
Now we've got some time for some questions. Graham, you're first.
Why don't you go back to those photographs of Sports Illustrated?
Yeah.
And you got a picture of Lindsey Vonn there. Now, Lindsey Vonn is doing one of two things. She's either being used or she's using her sexuality for her own gain. Now, she's one of the wealthiest athletes out there. She is not, this one here.
Yeah.
She's doing that for personal gain. She's not helping out any of the young females. So when are you going to start attacking her? Because she's doing a lot worse than Sports Illustrated putting that picture there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly
but don't attach her. but she's using her body to sell that magazine for her own gain.
Mm-hmm.
At the detriment of the young women.
But
Let's
even,
attack her.
yeah, but even just by being at the Olympics and skiing and having the media focus on that kind of aspect of her is really, that's being a role model.
But those covers you're talking about before is not what you're saying now, though. This cover say that she's selling her body, not her ability to ski. She's the best. So she's in that body picture there to sell for herself.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Sometimes it's hard for athletes to make money and because they're being paid so little, and sometimes what the media wants them to do, and if that's what's going to make her the money, sometimes she has to
give her an excuse now, I think just give her an excuse because she's wealthy.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and that issue definitely needs to be addressed at some point as well.
Yes, she does.
It is a bit of a catch-22 though, because I mean, it's like a great big culture shift that has to happen, Graham, because, and you know, I looked and thought, oh my God, look at all these young women being exploited like that. And then I thought, well, if she's when does she get to have enough power to say no? And to kind of call the shots and be in charge of her career? Because part of me wanted to react the way you did, but I think we're all up against something bigger as a society.
So she could make a statement and say no.
Yeah, she could. Like, wouldn't it be great if she felt like she could too?
Yes.
Like that's what I think has to change. Is that, you know, when do these women get to be in charge of what they wear and what it looks like on the front page of something? And I think that's really unfortunate.
When does the press stop asking for that photo?
And
that becomes the question.
Maybe the opportunity for
Like,
her to
there's a
even have
whole-
the press at all was not there unless this is the type of thing that was asked for. Like maybe she wouldn't have the opportunity to even have for any exposure to her sport.
But there's a whole bunch, there's a whole bunch of levers, but you would love for women to have the same right to kind of.
I think Serena Williams is at that level.
Yeah, you're right.
She's at that level where she could say no.
Well, she was actually in the news recently too, though, because she wore a compression suit at the French Open.
Yeah, it's not allowed.
Yeah.
And they chastised her for wearing a compression suit.
Yeah. So it's a fair point, but I think it's a really big problem, and I'm so glad you brought those images because they have to make us feel uncomfortable.
It's also not just the image; it's the caption beside it.
Yeah,
it's kind of
it's the message.
It's labeling her as a winner because of her body, and she had no say in that. The publication put that up there, and they never really addressed her talent.
I think we got time for one or two more. Dave?
The Olympic women's team in hockey has, I think, become very, very well known in Canada. I was wondering if you had any stats, like what was the number of people who watched the men's hockey versus the women's hockey, and since women's success, they've been very successful in women's Olympic hockey. Has it made much difference in terms of people going to women's hockey games and the hockey league for women?
I don't have the exact stats, but I know that the men's games in the Olympics usually do get the bigger attendance, and there's also the problem that they've been dealing with where they make the men's game more of the finale, like the grand event, and they always finish the Olympics off with the men's final. It's never the women's final, so it would be nice if there's a little more equality with that. But you're right, the women's team has been gaining a lot of popularity, and that's really great to see. And it's good because the Olympic Committee has really been active in looking for ways to raise that equality between the teams and the attendance, the scheduling.
Okay.
It sounds like Shescores is a really great idea. I think it's a good concept. Have you ever thought about approaching maybe some of the elite athletes and getting them to support Shescores so that you can get a lot of buzz about it? If somebody who's really well known says, oh, she tweets out that Shescores is a great organization, a great website, that could reach millions of people.
Yeah.
So have you tried any of that? Or?
Yeah, we did an interview recently with Natalie Spooner, who's a star on the Canadian National Women's Hockey League, or hockey team, sorry. And she did a written interview for us, and it's up on the website. And also, I had Chandra Crawford, who was an Olympic gold medalist in cross-country skiing. She really mentored me in terms of getting this website and organization started. We had a bunch of Skype dates, and since then she's been very supportive and has been getting the word out about that. And then one of our volunteer writers is actually on the Canadian national rowing team, so she's been really great about spreading the word to all of her elite friends, and she wrote a really good feature for our website about her experience at the rowing Olympics that happened in July.
So the only other thing I can add is if you're looking for great mentors and trying to work your way into an MBA in the world, the best organization to belong to is Rotary. Become a Rotary, and then you have access to a whole slew of different people with all kinds of different abilities and things like that that could further the means of what you're looking to do. So Rotary could be your answer. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jessa, for coming today and speaking. We can all see your passion for this. It's great. Obviously, it sparks some passion in the room here, so which is good. Sometimes it's very quiet after some speakers, so it's good to see that everyone was listening and interested. So I wish your best for you for moving forward. Hopefully you can get this out to more people. I would suggest trying to get, there's 5 other clubs if you can get out and around in our area here, Rotary clubs. Just to help you move forward with it. So instead of a, excuse me, a mug or a pen for thinking to come today, our club restores the eyesight of someone in your name. So we've restored Albert, age 80. So thank you very much for coming. Charles.
If you didn't get one, there's parking passes up front.
Thank you very much for having me, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, and if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary,
Where's the Rotary meeting?
It's a really important message.
I know. I've been here. I've been here too long. I never know.
Just keep that going, that advocacy.
Nice meeting you.
Follow you on Instagram.
Oh, nice. Thank you. We're going to figure out how to use Instagram.
We follow the
Thank you. I'm fine. How are you?
Thank you. An eye-opener.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Did I left away with this?